YouTube or not to YouTube? That is the question. So today I'm going to explore the concept of cyber existentialism. I'm going to use a video by Tristan in the Classics where he is analyzing Shakespeare's scene from Hamlet, where he is doing that self-reflection. To be or not to be? That is the question. But before I get into it, let me share a quote here that I find very interesting. I found a couple of quotes in How We Became Posthuman from Catherine Hayles. It was published in 1999. And she said, while the prospect of becoming posthuman both evokes terror and excites pleas, in the realm of terror lies the vision that the days of humans are drawing to a close by being displaced by intelligent machines. She writes, humans can either go gently into that good night, joining the dinosaurs as a species that once ruled the earth but is now obsolete, or hang on for a while longer by becoming machines themselves. So I find this quite fantastic. This is really the question, right? Do we die or do we become machines ourselves? So let's get into the video. So I decided to use this video to make that cyber existentialism discussion and analysis of Hamlet. This is by Tristan in the Classics. He is analyzing the original script from Hamlet, and I'm going to make my observations based on both the script and then on his analysis as well, because I think it's quite fitting. So let's start. So the idea is, how does cyber existentialism enter in the realm of our contemporary society based on the same kind of existential questions that are found in Hamlet, which Tristan here will explain.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Now, you probably have already heard the main interpretation, which is that Hamlet is thinking about whether he should live or, take his own life. And that is what he's thinking. That is sort of what he's talking about. This is how the words apply to him. But Shakespeare, as ever, is interested in the human condition.
There you go. So this is so perfect because he is talking about how Shakespeare in his time is thinking about the human condition. So human condition, and then now we're entering post-humanism. The question is not as much as to be or not to be. So this is related like to be in existence, to just exist. But in post-humanism, the question becomes this kind of like, do I enter the digital realm? Do I bring my life online or not? So my little play with words would be YouTube or not to YouTube. And this is actually quite, it's more playful than actually philosophical to me, because I've been dealing with the issue of being on YouTube or not, and these days, you see so many videos saying, just start it, just go online, just do YouTube, be on Instagram. And this has become actually how some people actually get a lot of freedom in life, financial freedom. So there's a lot of the economic aspect of being online, but also the aspect of how that interfere with the idea of life itself. Like how do you divide your life between the human condition, the real, you're being in the physical space, and then your life in this digital realm, which is represented, through the digital. So I think that the question in cyber existentialism would be, how is my life in this hybrid condition? What am I in this hybrid condition? And I think how living that kind of hybrid life affects me in my being. Does it transform who I am? And I think that in his analysis, as we'll see, there's a lot of the pros and cons, because a lot of Hamlet's dilemma is about the burdens of existing or not existing, right? So we'll explore that aspect a bit more. So YouTube or not to YouTube? That is the question in cyber existentialism.
This is the fugue of inwardness, riding on the bourdon note of reason, as we become aware of life right in front of us and become conscious of our place in it and what our actions mean or don't mean. And that is something which there's a principle in this that branches out beyond just to live or die. Indecision is the great hamartia of Hamlet. Hamartia is the thing that causes his downfall.
Indecision is when you're not living in the hybrid space. I think you're missing out on some aspects of life itself, of your especially your social life.
Specifically for Hamlet, he's talking about to live or not live, to be, to exist or not to exist.
So here we're jumping into the YouTube or not to YouTube as the figurative to have a post-human life or not to have a post-human life or remain offline. Do we become digital or do we remain offline? That is the question.
But he can't seem to do anything. He can't summon or muster the bravery.
So I think that there's a good point here in this comparison to be or not to be is to be. So to stay alive is to become digital, or not to be would be to stay offline. But in terms of what is death, in this case, you become something when you come online, but at the same time you die because you're human, you become post-human. You've already become post-human in many ways, but in the case that we're discussing here, you become post-human, but then your human dies. So in a way, this is to die. To be is to die at the same time that something else is becoming. And not to be, to stay offline, is pretty much to die because you're not becoming post-human, you're not advancing, you're not becoming, but at the same time, you stay the same. You continue, with the identity that you already have. So I think that there is a good question here. What dies and what becomes in the leap to post-humanism?